All right, we are live, it looks like.
Yep. What's going on?
Well, we're having difficulties as always, right?
Yep. It's gonna be weird. No intro this week too.
Yeah, so you kind of want to tell everyone what's going on, or?
Sure. Yeah, we'll just start from the beginning. All right, folks. Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Duck Gun Podcast. I'm Jordan from Gun Chronicles. Got my co-host alongside me, Elliott Graybeard from Freelance Duck Hunting, and we're gonna be talking about the Kansas opener this week. How you doing, Elliott? Almost called you
I'm doing
Kansas.
I'm doing great, man. We had a fantastically fun weekend, and season's on now for sure here in Kansas.
Awesome. I can't tell you how jealous I am seeing all the photos and the crazy weather you guys have been having. But I won't spoil too many details. I don't know a lot of it, but here in Indiana, we're still waiting for our duck season to come in. So
But it's this weekend, right? This weekend.
yep, I'm definitely ready.
So yeah, it's here for you. I'm taking the weekend off, so you're going to be next weekend's going to be flipped.
Awesome. Well, kind of awesome for me anyway.
Yeah. Well, I'm taking the weekend off by choice. I've been pushing so hard and camping out so much, and it's just the youth hunt around here this weekend. The weekend after that, my wife's going to a wedding in St. Louis, so I'm like, I'm just gonna save all the boy hunting for when she's gone. We're gonna go back out west, avoid the opener around here because openers suck normally, and with all the people. And so I'm gonna take the weekend off and spend family time and wife time. So you're gonna be out doing it this weekend. I'm gonna be watching.
Sweet. Well, I guess before we jump into ours, I'll just kind of give my little brief update. So haven't been able to do any waterfowl hunting, obviously, because we're not in season yet. Didn't do any traveling, but I've been hitting the deer stand here or there. Been seeing some deer, but haven't really got any shots on anything. So that's fun. Helps keep the blues away till season gets in. But we do have a good pond scouted out for opening day on Saturday. I'll be going with HDR guys, so I'll be doing probably mostly filming, but still out there having a lot of fun waterfowling.
So have any of those ponds been in your videos in the past, or is this a new place?
Yeah, no, it's the same pond as 6-man limit from last year.
Okay.
From Cold Front Thunder. We shot a 6-man limit there last year.
I thought that was a river on Cold Front Thunder.
Nope.
Huh. I could have swore that you were on a river there for some reason.
We're on a sandbar. I don't know. I don't know if you actually call it a sandbar, but it was sandy. But it's a pond that's like, it's right next to a cornfield and the woods. But
Okay.
For whatever reason, it's like a day pond. So all the birds come off the roost, they land on that pond, and they go out to feed.
Okay. And there's birds using it right now?
Yeah, there's a lot of birds using it right now.
Oh, great. Good deal.
We'll say like hundreds.
So you're using all the new purchased video equipment and everything?
Yeah, for sure.
I can't wait to see how that turns out. That's going to be cool.
Yeah, I hope so. It'll be a new experience. I've always done the filming for YouTube for myself, self-filming, but this is kind of different,
Yeah. So do they have dogs? Does Chief get to go on these HTR hunts?
Well, that's one thing that actually we talked about today, and I decided I'm not gonna take them just because I don't want to have distractions where I'm responsible for too many things, and if Chief's off like chasing a duck that like floated off or something, because I had that happen in teal season where one floated like hundreds of yards, and Chief was just gone, and he was gone, and he was going after that bird, and then like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I need to get the shot of this over here, and my dog's gone. So maybe if you had more practice working with one of them, then we could do it. But with not having that much work with anybody besides me, it might be I just don't want to risk it. Maybe later on in the season we will, but not this time.
Yeah, as things get kicked off, that's probably really smart.
Yeah, I hate to do it. It hurt to do it. To say it, I'm like, you know what? I don't think we should take them just because I can't be responsible for my dog, and I don't want to miss an important shot or something like that. So
yeah, cool. Hey, let's make sure. Do you normally keep track of questions? Because Troy has a cool question I'd like to talk about at the end of the podcast. So I think you normally keep track of the questions on the chat board, right?
When that happened in the past, that was my wife keeping track of them. So
okay. Well, Troy, we will remember your question. Those of you that are listening to us on just the audio podcast, Tuesdays at 6 Central, if you want to ever come and interact with us live, it's either on Gun Chronicles YouTube channel or mine, Freelance Duck Hunting. Great place to come and chat with other hunters and ask questions. So Troy, I will try to remember that question, and we'll hit the hunter etiquette question at the end. But I think that's an interesting question to answer about hunter etiquette and who claiming down birds within the group.
That is definitely a good question to go over.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess let's just jump into your hunt. Let's start at the beginning. Just start at the beginning.
Okay.
Let's hear about your hunt, Elliott.
Well, I've got I could go on there's so much that took place this weekend. I had Friday off, so it's the opener in the early zone, which is about 3.5 hours away from where we live. So whenever we go back there, we always camp out, and actually that's kind of those areas are my home stomping grounds. It's where I learned to duck hunt. It's where I started duck hunting. So it still feels like home. It's more close to where I grew up. And my uncle's got land out there, and my parents take their fifth wheel, and me and whoever's with me, we camp in the public grounds around the area. So we had 3 nights of camping. Now this we've been dry and in drought for months and months and months. And in the last month, we've had so much rain, ridiculous amount of rain. So about 4 days before the opener, the entire area flooded beyond what I had seen it for years and years and years. So the previous weekend at the same place, my boys went and did the youth hunt, and we had everything scouted out. We knew where all the birds were, but when the entire area just completely flooded, it scattered the birds all over everywhere. And so we still had a general idea of where we could shoot ducks, but it being opening day, and we typically like to have 5 or 6 quality options on opening day just because there's so many people there, that we wanted to get in a ton of scouting. So on Friday morning, the day before, we woke up and it was raining again, some more. So we slept in just a little bit. We were out at the marshes about an hour after shooting time because the rain kind of settled. And so it was Golden Boy, which is what we call Aiden on my channel, my dad, who we call Fumble Mitts, and myself. And so we scouted almost the entire day. And the first area that we scouted, we found a field that was a private section that was right up against public land. So we were actually scouting. We were in our kayak scouting this public area, and we had a spot picked out that we really liked. We came around the corner and we saw flock after flock after flock of big ducks. Like I saw one flock of 200 pintail go down in this little tiny field, just huge birds just dumping into the field. And I knew that this field was private. So I got out onX Maps, found the name, the homeowner or the landowner's name, contacted a friend in the area, actually know the game enforcement officer out there. And he told me where the guy lived, but that he doesn't normally give us permission. So we went and knocked on the guy's door, and he gave us 1-day exclusive permission to this little spot. So at this point, we're like, well, I mean, we've got private land. It's from everything we'd seen, this place was just the X and exclusive rights to it. No one else could go into it. So, I mean, we thought, man, this is a done deal. We're going to shoot. We were talking about, okay, we're not shooting teal. We're just going to try to shoot pintail drakes and then widgeon drakes. I mean, we thought this was just going to be a knockout, right? But we weren't done scouting at that point because we wanted to try to then scout a spot for Sunday. So this area has a creek that winds all through the area, and off that creek, there's all little off pools and chutes, and we know the area well, but in a flood, there was just going to be so much more in there. It takes about 2 hours to float this section. So Aiden and I just floated this section, and we found a little place that I had been looking at on Google Earth for about 5 years. And I knew that this place would hold water under the right circumstances, but I'd never even looked at it. And this place was so hidden, so hard to get to, that I was almost certain that nobody was going to be hunting it. So we get in there, we're flushing mallards, pintails, widgeon. I mean, so all of a sudden now we've got the X of all X's waiting for us. And we've got this spot that was such a cool spot, and it was so hidden, we actually started debating where we were going to hunt. And just the fact that we were even debating where we were going to hunt was just a mind blower, because of how awesome the first spot was. But still, it was going to be in proximity to other hunters. And so after lots of debate, we decided, okay, let's go to the private field on Saturday and get real greedy and just save the second spot for Sunday, because we had figured probably no one would hunt it. So we were just going, at the end of this day, we thought we had like the Grand Slam weekend, right? We were just gonna hammer it. So we went to bed, slept in a little later than normal because we had private land. We still got up pretty early, but we slept in longer than normal. The temperature was just fantastic. I think it was about, it might've got around 38, 39 that night. So weather was great. And to get to this private field, we still had to use our kayaks. So we kayaked back in there, through the public land, got into the private, and immediately we could tell that there was a lot less water in this private field. So the private field set right up against a creek, and it was flooded because the creek had come clear out of its banks, and that's what had flooded it. So we got all the way back in there, and we're like, all right, there's obviously not as much water in here as there was. Overnight, it had lost a ton of water. So we're starting to get a little bit paranoid, starting to get freaked out. But we really didn't have any other choice at this point. We were way back in, and our secondary spot already had guys in it. We had to roll past them. And so, okay, we thought, well, we'll just set it up and see what we can do. And actually, I had my White Rock. I used my White Rock mallard socks on this hunt, which I've been dying to do. I don't know. Most of you guys probably know that we're switching over everything as far as decoys to White Rock. We've got the floaters, we've got the mallard socks, we've got goose silhouettes, goose socks. So I'm like, this is really shallow field. We can use our mallard socks in it. So we got everything set up, and immediately right off the bat, as the sun came up, there was a couple huge flocks that came and looked at us. It's like they just came and looked at the field, saw that the water had died down or had descended, and just took off. So for the first hour, it was just people all around us shooting, ducks coming and looking at us and leaving. We had a couple teal that we shot during that hour. But I mean, it was just, and not only that, the water was continuing to drop. So there was after an hour, there were decoys that were floating in ankle deep water that were now not even in water at all after like an hour. So, I mean, everything it was disappearing. It was disappearing. So we were pretty disappointed. And to make matters worse, I got frustrated over fumbles and was all short tempered with him and had to apologize. So after the first hour, things were going really, really poorly. Let's just say that. But everyone around, I mean, a lot of guys around us, they were shooting a lot. And you could tell after an hour and a half, people were starting to leave because there was a ton of teal in the area. And we actually were passing up some shots at teal to begin with. And people were leaving because they had shot their limit. So about an hour and a half, we said, we just got to move. We got to get out of here. We're losing water. We got to go somewhere else. So we packed everything up, pulled the boats back out, and water that we were paddling through in that field on the way in was now like we were struggling to pull the boats through it. It was crazy. And so we went to the secondary spot. We set up there. And at this point, we're like, we're shooting anything that comes in. And we did end up actually having a fairly successful hunt in this second spot. We ended up with Aiden and I both shot our limit, and my dad, I think, shot 3 in our limit, but it took us till about noon. The guys that had started the day in that spot shot their limit in about 30 minutes. So we did end up shooting almost a limit, but nowhere near to what we had anticipated, and all teal on that day. So that was day one.
Yeah, that sounds like a little bit rough compared to your expectations.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, and the video actually, I'm just getting done with the video. It's going to come out Thursday, and on top of that, my GoPro stopped working. I've got a battery pack that goes on it, and I put it on a stake, and that cord was no longer charging the battery, and it wouldn't work. I put in my secondary little battery, and that didn't work. So I had no GoPro footage. And in the second spot, we're in layout boats and weeds. And when you're layout boat hunting with weeds all around you, filming, especially teal, filming teal is almost impossible because they come in so low, and you can get it, but it's typically through the weed stuff, you know. So I thought when I was done, I was like, this video is just gonna suck. But actually, now that I have it almost done, I really, really love the video. I think it's one of my favorites of the year, actually. So I feel a little better about that. That's coming out Thursday, I think about 2 or so. Awesome. That first video. So, and the Chef Boyardee rap makes a second appearance, which is nice.
You're gonna have to switch that to your intro here soon.
Well, I have found and for those of you that don't that are listening that don't really watch my videos, me eating Chef Boyardee is a theme that tends to run through a lot of the videos. And not that I started out loving Chef Boyardee, it was just kind of around, and I kind of realized how much I did like it, so I kept bringing it. And so it's just kind of this ongoing theme of how much I ate Chef Boyardee when we're out hunting. And I found a second rap song to use, except it's like just some guy with I don't want to be demeaning to anyone, but it's just some guy who must really love Chef Boyardee that makes his own little rap. It's not like a professional thing. It didn't make an appearance in this video, but it's coming soon. Nice. That song's coming soon in one of the videos for sure.
Well, I can't wait for your own version that you write and sing.
I'm actually thinking about it. I'll tell you what, when you hear that the homemade Chef Boyardee rap song, I can do better than that dude. I just don't know if I can pull off like the background music on it, but that ended up being, you know, I didn't shoot very well. I started off 0 for 4, and that was another thing that frustrated me on the day is my shooting, which if any of you have layout boat hunted, shooting teal out of a layout boat is certainly a challenge. When you have mallards coming in and hovering, you can pop up out of your layout boat and get it on them, no problems. But when you have teal that are whipping into the decoys, even if they think they're going to land, I mean, by the time you pop up, it's just a lot harder shooting them out of a layout.
I've never tried that. Does your layout boat wobble too, or
no? No, those Ascends, I never feel a wobble on those Ascends. I know Aiden's little kayak does, but I've never felt that. It's just the timing out of a layout boat is different than if you're sitting on a bucket or something where you can just pull the gun up. So you have to start coming up a little bit sooner, just like a split second sooner, because if you pop up to shoot at your normal timing, then you're just a little bit late because it just takes a little bit longer. So that's one of the main things and you're doing a sit up before you shoot. So when you're shooting on your feet or over a bucket, you know, your upper body is tilted quite a bit forward, right? And when you come out of a layout boat, it's not exactly the same upper body angle compared to the rest of your body. So it's a lot harder. I think I was 6'4", 14 or 15. I was like 40% or something. But so I did decent towards the end, but
nice. Well, that'll give me some hope in the coming days to surpass you.
Yeah, my overall shooting percentage went from 71 to 59.
I'm gonna have to be really selective on my shots because there's no chance that I'm gonna shoot more ducks than you. So I have to win one of the categories. And
yeah,
you're gonna shoot more blue-wing teals, and I'm gonna shoot ducks all year.
Yeah, I think I've got about 40 blue wings. Or 38 or 39 blue wings this year. Yeah,
that's a lot.
That is a lot. I've shot so many that they're starting to get close to my last 10 years. My overall numbers for ducks, I've shot like 189 mallards and now 160 something blue wings. But it was a pretty big gap between the two. But after this year, it's climbing fast.
Yeah. Well, you'll have plenty of chances to shoot mallards to widen the gap for the rest of the season.
I hope so. I hope. You never know. I mean,
That's true. You never know.
I shot a lot more mallards last year than I have in the past. I mean, there's some years where I've only put down 15, 16 mallards for whatever reason, but we'll see. Hopefully we can keep it rolling. I've never started off this hot before in my life, where it's just, where I'm complaining about a hunt where I shot a limit.
Yeah.
It was just overall a very frustrating, unpleasant day, other than the fact that I shot my limit. My dad was struggling with Candy, and she was being completely uncontrollable out of the back of his kayak, and she was coming up out of the hood, and I don't know what her deal was. It's like that someone gave her some crack before the day started, but she was just at an all-time high as far as her behavior, and that was frustrating my dad as well. But I mean, we still shot almost 3 limits, so you can't really complain. But we were just, like I said, expectations were so high that it just did not go as planned.
Yeah. Well, I know the second day probably went a little bit better, right?
It did, but it's totally different at the same time. So we all kind of left in fairly low spirits, and looking at the weather. So it got up to 60 degrees on Saturday. And then looking at the weather on Sunday, it was turning to a north wind at about 2 or 3 o'clock, and the temperatures were going to continue to drop throughout the day. So when we woke up, the temperatures were about 40, I think. And then when we got done hunting, the temperatures were about 32. So the second day, we were going to go back to that spot off the creek that we had found the day before. And we did get confirmation it had not been hunted. And, but we had a choice that we could approach this pool from the north or the south. If we approached it from the north, we were going to have to float the entire creek to the pickup spot, which we didn't have anyone to pick us up in the morning because my dad wasn't coming. He was going to church. And so we just didn't have anyone to pick us up. So we were going to have to come from the south and come up about a half to 3/4 of a mile up the creek. So winds were supposed to be really high, but we looked at the weather forecast. Aiden and I really studied the weather forecast to see what the winds were going to be. And the predicted wind temperatures were about 7 miles per hour was the predicted wind temperature at about 4 when we were coming up the creek. And then it was going to get up to almost 20 by about shooting time, maybe about an hour after shooting time. So we thought, well, okay, we can do this. We can get up. So we got up, we got to the boat put in, and it was not blowing 7 miles an hour. It felt more like 15 to 20. And we're like, and it was drizzling rain. So we put our kayaks on this creek, and this creek is pretty open, not tons of trees. So you don't have lots of tree cover in all the areas, but it winds around a lot. So our plan was to hug the shorelines and weave around. And long story short, the trip in there was really, really physically demanding. We had to paddle for about 200 yards upwind. Then we had to get out and portage our boats about 60 yards, put on the water again, paddle back upwind. And I've with the floodwater, normally I know this area well enough that I could get to the places without GPS of any kind. But when it's all flooded and everything's out of the banks, now it doesn't look the same at night, So think if I didn't have the GPS, there's no way I could have found us into this spot. So it was like every 50 yards I was having to check GPS. And so we portaged, paddled farther, portaged farther. And finally, about 30 minutes before shooting time, we got into the exact spot we wanted just because I had marked it with a pin on GPS. So we were flushing ducks as we came out of there. But it was an extremely, it's really weird with conditions like this, with like blowing and rain, because I've said it before, when you add a little smidge of danger to it, it ups the ante for fun, I think. Because it's like, the thing that I like about duck hunting the most is the adventure of what you're doing. And so you give me the harsher conditions and you make the work harder, And on top of that, you put me clear back where no one else is away, then I'm in heaven. And so that aspect of it that Aiden and I had to struggle into this north wind, knowing that snow was coming later in the day, the feel of it was very, very full of adventure and excitement, for sure. So
with all that like portaging and paddling and the blowing conditions, like how much more, physically exhausting was it than normal?
It was really physically exhausting. But there was only one portage that was really, really hard because we were coming up through a section and I couldn't hit it quite right because it was in the dark. So we were pulling through, I don't know what kind of plants they were, tall, like 6-7 feet tall vegetation, some of which was actually woody. So your boat would get on it, and get jammed and stuck. And so that part of it was really, really hard. The other parts, we were actually able to cross the channel and get kind of out of the wind. And so I wasn't like, felt like I was at as far as the difficulty of the physicality of it was not over my head at all, except for that one portage. It was just like, make sure you're being safe, make sure you know where you're going, cross the channel as quickly as you can. Because ultimately it's at this point, it's like 35 degrees and we're in little boats over water over our head with life jackets on and everything with, 15-mile-an-hour winds. So it was more than it being like, didn't feel like I just worked out, it was just total focus on do this properly, do it safely, make sure that you're not making any mistakes. And then with the thought of all that snow coming and everything, it just makes it feel like you're climbing a mountain in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. So you said it was just you and Aiden, right?
Yeah, just me and Aiden. I don't think my dad could have done it.
So how many decoys and like how much gear were you able to carry with all that portaging and, carrying your kayaks like that? Is it just like one person at each end or?
Well, let's see, as far as decoys, we only took, I think 3 or 4 dozen in there. Aiden is actually pulling a sled behind his little kayak. He had it worse than I did because his little kayak doesn't have any grooves on the bottom. So the kayaks weren't that loaded down. The first day they were, we took like, with the socks, we had like 11 dozen. But the second day we knew it was going to be somewhat hard. So we really minimized the gear. So we like I say, I think we took 4 dozen total, and that's just a couple dozen per boat. So the gear was we minimized the gear pretty well.
All right.
So once we finally got set up in there, there was less open water. The water had gone down in there about 8 inches from when we had scouted it, but at the same time there was still plenty of water. We were having problems finding open holes though. It was all vegetation. So we found a little open hole that was right up against this. It wasn't cattails. I don't know what it might have been. Somewhat similar to what you were in that day.
Was it called Fragmite?
It was similar to that. I don't know. I think someone was calling it switchgrass or something, but it was maybe not as thick as what you were in, but thick enough that we didn't even have to lay out because we could just I pushed my kayak back into the weeds and just crunched all the grass over top of it. And I actually had top cover, like you did. So our hide was just phenomenal. But the movement in there was not as fast as what we thought that it would be. And again, my GoPro, I thought I could maybe get it working again. It wasn't working. It was so dark. And honestly, I didn't do a ton of filming as far as kill shots and stuff on this one because we were both really hungry to shoot big ducks, and neither of us were dying to put the camera down or put the gun down, and the GoPro wasn't working. But the teal we had, I was shooting like crap again, but the problem was the section of open water we had was way too close to our cover. So these teal would be coming right for us. And I had so much cover, I had to stand up to shoot. Well, I would stand up to shoot and those little suckers would just be like, wow, winging all over the place. So, didn't shoot that well on the teal, but we were ultimately still holding out for big duck. So we had a pintail, we had a big duck come in and hover, and we split on that, and that ended up being a pintail hen. So we were a little disappointed that was a pintail hen. Though, because the big ducks, those are the least duck I want to shoot as a pintail hen, just because I would like them the hens to go and reproduce. But then we had a gorgeous widgeon drake come in and hover, and Aiden killed that one. And the weirdest thing ever, we thought one duck came in, and Aiden killed it. And as he killed this widgeon drake, out of the corner of my eye, I see something just others in a different area splash down in the water. I'm like, did you shoot a double? And he's like, no, there was only one duck there. I'm like, well, I saw something splash. Went over there, and there was a green-winged teal just laying there dead. It was like at the right second, this green-winged teal had just cut through the shot stream. and wow. Yeah. So Aiden shot a double on that one. And then the crown jewel of the day, though, is we were sitting there. We weren't paying attention. Well, we were paying attention. We were just sitting there looking forward. And this group of about 8 gadwall comes swinging around from behind us out in front, and just came straight in and just hovered over the decoys. And so we killed 3 of those. And it was just the coolest pass. They were probably at 15 yards, all 8 of them just hovering, you know. And so that, man, that pass was phenomenal. But it was mostly really teal buzzing around. So it got to be where we were at about 9 ducks, 3 gadwalls, a widgeon, pintail, and the rest teal. And we waited up until 10:30, and we didn't hardly get anything close to us from 9 to 10:30. And we still had, we had to go. And at this point it was now sleeting. So it was drizzling. Then it turned to sleeting. The wind is about 20 miles an hour. I mean, the conditions are just crazy in there. We're completely way back in away from everything. And Aiden's waders were leaking. So he's freezing cold. And, so we decided at 10:30, it's like, well, we better just go ahead and we really wanted to shoot our limit. We better go ahead and head out, because we've got a 3.5 hour car trip. We still have to pack up our tent, all our gear. We got a portage out of here. So we were a little bummed we weren't going to shoot our limit. So we were walking back across the pool, and we see 2 or 3 flocks of ducks go down in the same spot about 200 yards from where we had been hunting. And we start talking, like, you know what, let's just go over there, throw out a few decoys, see if we can finish this off. So we go clear over there, throw out just like a couple dozen decoys. And within 10 minutes, the teal were just bombing down in, and we finished off our limit. I mean, at this point, we'd already done like end of the hunt pictures. We had signed off on the video and everything. And we just cruise over there and plop out a couple decoys, and the teal were just like, just bombing in. And I don't know whether, and at this point, like during this whole process, it's going from rain to sleet to thicker sleet to almost, we're almost at snow at this point. So it's just one of those moments where that everyone really wants to be waterfowling in with, like, you know, now it's snowing, and we just finished off our limit, and we were pretty happy with ourselves. I'll say that. So, and the portage out was much easier because now we got the wind at our back. So we cruised on out of there. By the time we got to the truck, it was all out snowing at that point. And I think they ended up getting a couple of inches. So,
that's some crazy conditions for opening day. That's for sure.
yeah, I know. I mean, October last year, during the opening weekend was when Aiden and I were in the tornado and swatting mosquitoes and shooting limits of teal and everything. But to have that type of 20-mile-an-hour wind, sleet, snow in October, it really felt like a December hunt. It really did.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah. So the second day was way more enjoyable than the first day. It really was. So,
nice. Yeah.
I still didn't shoot great, but I think on that day I was 6 for 15 the first day and 6 for 14 the second day. So not horrible, but
yeah,
not as good as I had been shooting.
Well, still mixed bag. Can't complain about nice and mixed bag like that.
Yeah, and the widgeon Aiden shot was absolutely beautiful, and it had a sprig on it longer than anything I've seen on a widgeon. It was absolutely beautiful, and I wished I had been the one to kill it. That thing came in, I drew down on it, and it pulled a maneuver like a teal, this widgeon. I mean, as soon as I jumped up, I was just getting ready to pull the trigger, and it like banked sideways and dropped like 10 yards in a split second. It was the craziest maneuver I've seen a bigger duck do. And then Aiden ended up killing it on like his second or third shot or something. But I've never seen a big duck pull this kind of maneuver. It's
probably hanging around. Really impressive. Probably hanging around with the teal, learning from them.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the one that Aiden shot that other little teal that swung through. So it must have been his little buddy teaching him some aerial lessons.
Nice.
Yeah, but it was a good weekend. So we got back to our campsite and the tent was covered with snow all over it. And we're soaking wet and snow all over the place. We've got entirely too much gear to pack up because we just overloaded. I don't know if you saw the picture of what the back of my truck looked like
Uh-huh.
going in. But now, when you leave and this, it was just an absolute mess. So luckily we were able to call my dad down and be like, hey, we made him take the gunner kennel to give us more room. But packing up that campsite really, really sucked. Sucked bad, but still kind of epic when you're in those kind of weather conditions.
Yeah, but by the time you shoot your limit and get back, you're like, oh, I'm done with this.
Yeah, for sure. That's about the time I was like, I think I'm taking next weekend off to spend with the wife and the kids. This weekend has been pretty much maxed out my hunting. I could use a week off.
Yeah. So is next weekend your zone's opener?
It's our zone's youth weekend.
Oh, okay.
So the plan was to scout all day Friday because I've got Friday off working in, and then hunt Saturday with the boys around here. And I think we would have done well, but we're just going to hold it off. And then on the opener up here, we're going to go back to where we were last weekend, avoid the opener here because the opener up here, living where I live, is a madhouse, absolute madhouse. So way worse than the early zone is. So I don't mind missing that at all. So we'll head back there, get the boys on their hunts. And at that point, Simeon won't be a youth anymore. Simeon's birthday is next Tuesday. So his youth hunting career is over now. So that's the plan. So I needed the weekend off just to spend with my family and my wife, and we'll hit it hard again the next weekend for sure.
Awesome. Sounds like you guys had quite the opener. So
yeah, it was super eventful. It really was. So I mean, we at this point, Aiden and I both, we've shot our limit on every hunt, which is, I mean, I've never had a start to the season like this. So
is that 6 or 5 limits in a row?
I think 7 now.
Oh wow. Yeah. So haven't shot so many teal limits in a row because you shot 6 teal limits in a row. Last year I don't remember you guys doing as well in teal season. So having your opening day as a teal limit last year probably felt a lot better than this year having that as a teal limit as your opening week.
Oh wait, yeah. Last year, because last year we had a terrible teal season. I think I shot 6 or 8 teal the entire, maybe 6. I think it was 6 teal the whole teal season. And this year I shot 30. So I mean, night and day difference. So last year I'd just been coming off 2 of the worst years of my hunting career, both of which I had been starting a YouTube channel. So when Aiden and I shot our limit, that opener, it was one of the most exhilarating limits ever. Because as much as I wouldn't like it to, the pressure of posting all those terrible hunts where we were just not shooting anything was building a little bit. So that was a hunt to remember for sure. That was really emotional high shooting that limit in such grand fashion where there was just teal like gnats flying everywhere. So
awesome.
Yeah, at this point we're like, okay, I love shooting blue wings, but shooting a blue wing limit, which is what I did on the opener, was actually a little bit of a downer compared to the year before. Weird.
All about perspective, I guess.
It is. It really is. But we're going to hit a cold streak here pretty soon, I'm sure. This isn't going to stay this hot. We'll probably hit the cold streak by the time you're up here.
That'll probably be how it goes.
But I don't know. Hopefully we can keep it rolling. I think we probably will, as long as that area we're going to is just so good.
Awesome. So I guess let's jump to some questions if we got any. And we'll start with Troy's from the beginning. And Troy asked, just getting back into duck hunting since I was a kid, and I was wondering about your thoughts on the etiquette between hunters and groups for claiming down birds. I guess, yeah, for me, it's just, obviously whoever shot it can claim it, but there's going to be people who claim it when they didn't shoot it, and most of the time they're probably going to think they actually did. I'd hate to think that people claim it when they didn't, and then there'll be times where both you guys will want to claim it and you both shot it. So, I mean, that's when it gets tough, I guess. What are your thoughts on that, Elliott?
Well, we have very strict rules for it. So with the Freelance HuntStats, my dad and I, when we used to actually in the Excel spreadsheet that I had when we kept our numbers, we would put splits as 0.5. So I could end up a hunt with 3.5 ducks. And so we would just say split. And I would say I thought I shot that. And typically when I shoot a duck, unless I'm absolutely dead certain no one else shot at it, I will say, does anyone else think they shot that duck? Before I'm like, I shot that, real emphatically. It'll be kind of like, I think I shot that duck. If my dad says, well, I shot it too, it's like, okay, split. So if there's 3 ducks shot, and if actually this happened with Aiden and I, because the pintail hen, we split on. So we start out, we each have half a duck. So he shoots 2 more, and now he's got 2.5, and I've got a half. And so inevitably, if we split on another one, well, now the 2 splits make 1, and one person takes 1 bird, the other takes the other. So I think that's the easiest way to do it, is just to say, okay, split, count it as half. And for the actual numbers, so if we shoot 1 duck on a hunt, and Aiden and I think that we split it, or my dad and I think that we split on it, in my records, we both counted as 1 duck. That's just easiest way to do it. There's certainly no reason fighting over it or anything.
Yeah. I think, one thing you have to just be careful about is if you split it, did you shoot it or did they shoot it? And are you going to be at, 4.5 mallards? Then that, I guess that's where it gets tricky. And then I don't know, some people probably worry about who takes it home, especially on like a slower hunt. If you're a fan of eating duck meat.
Yeah. Well, and you can run into that problem. So if we get to 12 ducks and we've called split on 1, you can get to the situation where you're actually saying that you have more than your limit. So what we've talked about is like capping it. It's like if there's a split in there and we end up with 12, then okay, well, these are your 6 and these are mine. And then for your records, you can mark it however you want, or whatever. But if there's 12 ducks and we've split on 1 to where it would put me at like 6.5 and him at 5.5 or whatever, at that point, you're just like, these 6 are yours and these 6 are yours,
Yep.
But as far as like, typically who thinks they shot it, calling split and just putting in one person's boat and seeing how the day progresses. And eventually it's like, okay, well, this one's yours,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then if someone's being like aggressive about it, I mean, honestly, it's probably time to find a different hunting partner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're really going to run into the worst thing when it's kids hunting, because kids don't have the eye for who shot what when. And so they will traditionally call birds that aren't theirs. And as a kid, when it happens with a kid, I tend to just keep my mouth shut and let them think they shot it. And then I'll count it towards my records if I need to. But a kid needs to feel success. So now there's a certain age and a certain time in which you start saying, like at this point, if Simeon is trying to call my ducks and I know he didn't shoot, I'm not going to let him say take it. But you're early on, you're young kids, just let them think they shot it.
Mm-hmm. I have not experienced that yet, but
well, you will if you take out a kid. Trust me.
Jason asks, where can I find layout boats at?
Well, kayaks like we're using, you can find at Bass Pro or probably Cabela's at this point in time. If you want actual layout boats, then you can check Karsten's, you can check Beaver Tail, you can check, I don't know. Just put in layout boat in Google and hit go.
Yeah.
I think though that more people are changing over to kayaks because Aiden bought my dad's Karsten's Pintail, which is a traditional layout boat, for $450. My dad bought it from a guy for $1,000, which that's about a $1,200 boat new. Aiden bought it from my dad for $450 about 5-6 years later. And Aiden tried to sell that thing for months and months and months and couldn't even get it sold for like $350, which is just crazy because I've sold much lesser layouts for $300, $350 several years ago. So I think the trend is to go to more kayaks and away from traditional, unless you put a transom and a long tail on it. But I think that these, like the way we're doing it with these smaller boats, that you can be more flexible and adapt to a situation better. I think people are going to kayaks and away from traditional layout boats.
What is everyone's favorite deck tee? I'm gonna say blue and teal for me.
Yeah, teal. Just give me a teal. I need to do a taste test between a teal and a mallard. I know that we did a taste test between teal and in Canada, and everyone agreed the teal was better. It was just softer. I don't know. Mallards are pretty delicious.
A lot of people are saying wood duck.
I don't know. I haven't eaten enough wood ducks to know.
I don't think I have either. A question for you, Elliott, from Matt Zoo.
Mm-hmm.
Do you paddle with your blind up?
Yeah, we do. Now and even with the doors open or closed, you can paddle with them, no problem. There have been a couple times that the doors, when they're open, I feel like they're in my way and I close them on me a little bit, but majority of the time I just leave the doors open and it's not a problem at all. In fact, we've got a video. You'd have to dig a little bit. It's probably in a playlist called From the Field, where we test out the paddling with the blind on there and show it to you. So go to playlist and look for From the Field, and you should see that. Find that video.
All right, and Curtis asks, does FDH ever hunt Southeast Zone?
Yes, January. Pretty much only January when we will.
And then Tanner asks, did you train Izzy and did Fumbles train Candy?
I did train Izzy using Water Dog. My dad, for the most part, trained Candy. He got her when she was a year. He's a better trainer than I am, and he's trained dogs to field trial level and have gotten them certified. So he's a much more accomplished trainer than I am. But yeah, both of us trained our own dogs.
The Gilly guy asked, how long until Freelance Store will be up? It says it's under construction.
It's not going to be up this year. We ran the FDH store for a while, and honestly, it became more a pain in the butt than it was a moneymaker. So it's not anything we're opening anytime soon. Now, what we are going to do is we're going to underneath my videos, YouTube has created a partnership with Teespring, and there's only one hoodie on there for sale right now, but we're going to make some more hoodies and t-shirts that will be for sale right under the videos that you can click on, and that will probably be done before the end of the season. But as far as and that'll only be t-shirts and hoodies. As far as the actual Freelance Duck Hunting store, there's nothing in the works to open that back up at this point.
All righty. And last question, Utah March Assassin asks, how are the White Rock decoys withstanding the public land abuse?
Well, we just started using them because during teal season we use all teal decoys. So this weekend we took out some of, correct me if I'm wrong, pool. What was it? Pool 12, pool 13?
Pool 7.
Pool 7, so I'm way off. We took out the pool 7, we took out the nomads. I will say, with which one of the two are not weighted keels?
The pool 7 are weighted and the nomad are non-weighted.
Okay. So the nomad it's the exact same decoy from the pool 7, except the nomad, you can fold it down because there's a little cap at the back that they didn't glue shut, and then the keels are not weighted. And I would say after using both of them, I much prefer the pool 7. When you throw those little light ones, they don't flip over, and on a heavy wind, they actually won't stay over. So we're going to go back and fill up the keels on those nomads and turn them into the pool 7. So I would say if you're looking to get the floaters, I would personally either, I don't know, are they the same price? Are they the same price point?
No, I think nomads are slightly cheaper. Maybe
like
$10 per dozen or something like that.
So here's what I would do. I would get the nomad decoys and turn them into pool 7. All you have to do is there's a little hole at the back. You blow it up, cap it with some Gorilla Glue, get a bag of sand and pour them in the keel, and then you've got pool 7. That's what I would probably do if you want to cut a little money. But they're pretty big decoys, but I like them. But we've only used them a couple of hunts now, and I've got 2 dozen of those rigged, and I don't have the other 5 dozen rigged yet. But in the socks, we put them out, the mallard socks, on the first day. There was no wind at all, and so we were a little nervous that maybe those without wind. But I liked how they look, and I'm happy with them. We're really hoping that we can use huge spreads of them in the flooded corn this year, which we've got a lot of flooded corn. But so far, so good.
Awesome. Yeah, I have not been able to use them yet. Well, I used them till season, and it did good. So, yeah, I'll wait till big duck season to really test them on public land as well.
Yeah, I was really hoping that I could highlight them in that hunt. And I do mention them and show them a little bit in the video, but I was really hoping that I could highlight them because we had all those socks out. But when we moved to the second place, we went with a much smaller spread, and I didn't even put them back out. It was a little deeper there too. But I was hoping to heavily highlight them in that video and just wasn't able to because that spot drained.
Yeah. And looks like we did actually get another couple questions. So real quick, we'll answer these, and then we're going to cut the questions off. The Gilly guy asked, what shotgun do you use? Browning A5, Wicked Wings for me.
Yeah, mine is a Beretta Outlander A300, which honest to God has given me issues a lot. Now my issue I'm having this year is when it gets dirty at all, the second shell doesn't fully push that shell in and click tight. So I'm having to like fully clean it just constantly. And I love the gun. It's been a little bit of a disappointment.
Someone in Wisconsin asked, do you guys think the white rocks are a little darker? I noticed they are darker decoys than my others. I honestly haven't compared them, but just at first glance, I don't think they're darker than what I think they should be.
I think the hens are a little bit darker than your standard hen decoy, but I don't think that's going to be an issue of any kind. I like the texture and the design of them, and I like the fact that it looks like that the way they're made. I don't think that the paint is going to chip off anytime soon on those. So they're a little bigger than your average decoy, and they're a little rounder than your average decoy, and the hens are a little bit darker, but I don't think any of those matter at all. I certainly think they're a solid choice if you're looking for floaters.
All right, last question. Jeffrey asked, at Jordan, when will you have your next waterfowl video up? Well, I'll be filming with HTR guys, so I'll be putting a film out for them. And then hopefully I'll be hunting on Sunday or earlier in the week, and maybe I'll be able to get at least one out next week for Gun Chronicles as well.
And I will say, guys, make sure that you go and over to Facebook and find us on Fellowship at the Duck Gun. This video I'm making from Saturday's hunt, I'm almost done with. I'm really excited about it because it's turned out way better than I expected. So when that happens, I'll either put my content on Patreon, which I do a lot, but I'll also sometimes slip over and put them at Fellowship at the Duck Gun. So if you have not signed up and joined our group over there, go ahead and do that. And I know that Jordan does the same thing with some of his videos, throws them up there a little bit early. So make sure you guys go in and find us over there.
Awesome. All right. Any last words, Elliott, before we sign off here?
I don't think so. Oh, yeah. I guess personal friend Drake from Drake Valley Outdoors, he's got a video coming up real soon. He's filming again. So I'm excited about seeing his videos, and I'm certainly excited about seeing your stuff coming up. So you think you'll have your video out? I guess I must have been daydreaming when you answered that question. Next week?
I hope so.
Okay, cool. Yeah, can't wait.
And
yeah.
Before you go, say hi to Hudson. There's a little boy who wanted me to say hi.
Okay, hi Hudson.
What's up, Hudson?
You can thank my wife for that, Hudson. The little Hud. They call him the little Hudster.
I don't know if he will. Maybe he's not little.
Oh, my wife said he was a kid. I don't know. My wife thought you were a kid.
Somebody's son.
Someone's son. I don't know. Well, he's still the little Hudster.
Sons can be old.
Yeah, I'm a son.
Yeah, you're a son.
Son of a bitch.
Right.
Sorry, Hudson. Plug your ears.
All righty. That's all we got for tonight. Throwing me off track here. Next week we got John Lewis. John Lewis coming on the podcast. He's the host of Cabell and Northern Flights. He'll be over on my channel, Gun Chronicles. So if you haven't been over there, be sure to check that out so you don't miss that one out. And that's all we got for this week. I'm Jordan from Gun Chronicles. Elliott from Freelance Duck Hunting. Season's here, guys. We're freaking pumped. And we'll see you guys next time.